Alright guys, so today we have a fairly big project. It is our biggest one by far. We are putting on a new clutch. We're also doing the flywheel as well. Let's see if you can see that. New clutch. It is a stage 1 Exedy organic clutch with the new pressure plate and everything. They say it comes with, I think, like 25% to 27% more clamp force. We also got a new flywheel. It's in there. It is a Subaru OEM flywheel, so that is going to be still stock. And the reason for that is I have a light and crank pulley, and a lot of people say if you do the crank pulley you can't do the light and flywheel because it'll spin too fast, which could cause it to misfire. So that's what we're doing. It's going to be a long process, hopefully not too terribly long, and all the help I thought I was going to have I don't, so we're going to see how this goes, because I got one guy who can come over later to give me a hand, but he can't make it until like 10 o'clock tonight. So we're going to get started. I'm going to start by taking off the hood just to get it out of the way. That way I have some room to see what I'm working on without that interfering. Then we'll get it up in the air, test it real quick, just to make sure all the 4 wheels are spinning and it's actually the clutch that's the problem, not like a gear or something. So yeah, let's get started. So hood's off. So next we'll put it up in the air on jack stands, and we're actually going to put it in gear. And if it is the clutch that's bad, all 4 wheels should still spin, just because it's not under a load. And if we get a couple that aren't spinning, then we got a different problem. It's going to be really disappointing if that's the case. What we need to do is put it in first gear. Let the clutch out. Now, all 4 wheels should spin. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a good sign. What that's telling me is that it is the clutch. And the only reason I know that is because they actually send a little tip sheet. So let me go grab it for you. They send you a little tip sheet with the clutch disc, which I thought was super cool. And it really was just couple things to check before you blame the clutch. And you know, coming from somebody who makes money off of selling clutches, you wouldn't expect that, and they still did it. And it's just tech notes. I'll grab it here in a minute. It's in the house. But what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna go ahead and take the wheels off, and we also need to take off the intercooler, the downpipe. So we'll get into access and stuff under there. Then we got to take a lot of stuff off the bottom of the car. So one step at a time. Let's get started with the wheels. She's a mannequin misery. She's on a bender, but she ain't gonna break. Tastes like sugar, but it's no. She's grinding teeth so she can sharpen the pain. Suicide. So whenever you're taking off one of these intercoolers, it's not too difficult. You got a couple bolts across here that hold this this piece on. Then our 12mm bolt here, one on the other side as well. The hardest part, in my opinion, if you're not taking this piece off of the front of the intercooler, which I try not to, so I can, so I don't have to get a new gasket, you have to take this hose clamp off, which is right down there. Right there. And it's kind of just a pain in the butt to get to. You can do it. I do it every once in a while. I've done it a couple times, but it's just never fun, in my opinion. Also, you need to take that hose clamp off for the turbo, and obviously the one on the coupler. So that's what I'll be wrestling with for the next 25 minutes. Alright, so we got hose clamp loose. You can see it started to pull out right there. And that just gives you enough room so you can get down in there to that hose clamp back there. You can get a little short socket and a ratchet on there now. We were gonna have steak tonight, but I didn't take them out in time, so they're still frozen. So we had to have burgers. It's a sad thing. All right, guys. So I left you. Oh, I wish I had a light over here. Can you grab that other light here, right here, this one, and just shine it on that stuff? And I was starting to take like the intercooler off, and when in doing so, I realized camera work was going to be extremely difficult. So instead of you watching me take the parts out, I'm going to show you what we did. Obviously we got the starter out. There's two bolts. I'll show you where they were. The down pipe's pretty straightforward. You got your top bolts up at the flange for the turbo. Your two bottom ones down at the mid pipe. Obviously the clip for the O2 sensor. And then there's one more. Michael, if you want to grab that light. Right there, that goes into that bracket, which you'll see right there. You'll see it under the car. It's pretty easy to do. So you'll take the down pipe out. The axles or the half shafts come with these roll pins. And you have to actually, when you lay underneath, you'll see a little circle where you can get a punch for it and knock it out. Once you knock it out, you're able to bring it loose from the transmission. We also took the steering knuckle loose so we could roll it out of the way to get it out of the knuckle and take it out of the car. But when you do that, just make sure you have it in neutral. That way you can rotate the wheel and get to those roll pins to punch them out. We also took the whole rest of the exhaust out just to get it out of the way. The drive shafts, you go to the rear of the drive shaft and there's going to be a couple bolts that hold that in. Again, have it in neutral. That way you can rotate it, and if you have someone who can pull the park brake, pull the parking brake, you can crack them loose, get them off, and rotate it. Have them pull the park brake again. Makes it easier. You might see this guard underneath the rear tail shaft. You will need to take that off to get it out. Some cars may have already had them removed and not put back in, but if you do have that, just take those 6 bolts out. It comes right off. And then it slides out the end, carrier bearing. Got to take those 2 out too, and then slide it out. And that's where we're at. Now the starter bolts, go right here. So they are kind of tricky to get to, but there's one that goes right there, another one that goes right down there. And then the last thing I found confusing, at least in this project that you guys weren't here for, is the slave cylinder. I couldn't find information on how to get that, but I finally figured it out. There's 2 bolts that go down there. You'll pop both of those off, and then I just have it hanging with a wire hanger to keep it up out of the way. When you do that, you can then take out this plug. And this plug goes in right here. Well, down there. But it goes right where this bolt is. Now, what you do is you take that plug out with a 10mm Allen socket, and then you'll take, believe it or not, from your radiator or alternator cover, take that far bolt out, and you can thread it inside, and you'll start pulling out on it. And that's actually the shifter fork bolt, I don't know what you would call it, but slider pin. You actually thread into it, and then once you thread into it, you can start tugging on that bolt, and that actually will slide out. So that's where we're at. Next step is to get the bell housing bolts loose, and the mounts underneath loose as well, and then we can pop this thing out. That's how you do it. Entertaining, right? Michael's here to help, by the way. He's going to give us a hand. But yeah, for real, this literally comes right out of there. Alright, so there you go. That's that shifter slide pin thing. Like I said, you just thread that into the end of it. Here we go. You'll just thread this bolt into the end of it. Like I said, that just comes out of the alternator shroud there. It's got a little thread there. Thread that in, and you just start pulling on it. It was kind of snug, so you can see a lot of dust in there, clutch dust and stuff, but we'll take it all out, clean it up, make it look pretty.
Trying to raise a little money to pay off all the monkeys that you met inside the rabbit hole. You're taking candy from the white witch. You're smoking tea with Mama Ken. Well, there's a wolf outside a brick house screaming.
We got the last of the bell housing bolts out up there. So we got all those out. Last couple things we got to do is take off the front mount support bolts, the rear mount support bolts, right there and right over, not those, next one over, those over there. All right, so we're taking off the shift linkage. We got those 2 bolts out, just got this kind of loose. Also, it slides onto this pin up here. You can fit and take that end nut off, slide that collar off. That'll get you open to that nut right there. That's the one you need out. So, take that piece loose, then get to that guy. Alright, cool. Okay guys, so we spent all last night trying to get this thing out and had no luck. So we went ahead and sprayed down the engine, or the bell housing. Where's your light at? Let me grab a light. Sprayed down the bell housing with some penetrating oil, let it sit. Basically, it's just seized together. So after some wrestling and prying and whatnot, we went back to the interweb and looked up what we can do. So what we have doing right now is a jack supporting the transmission underneath, and then on the front of the engine, a block of wood. Now I have it set up in between the exhaust there. You can't see it from up top, but it's coming up in between here and pressing on the bottom of the engine, and that's keeping the tilt in so it doesn't tilt forward. That way when we take it in and out, it'll kind of slide down and back a lot easier. But the trick to separating it is getting a putty knife. Taking a putty knife and a hammer, and just tapping it in there. As you can see now, we're starting to get some separation down in there. So we'll just work that around both ways until she comes loose. It's very annoying. It's a very long process, but wrestle with it enough and you'll get it. There you go.
Keep lowering.
Just a hair. Alright. Keep tension on it though, just a little bit. It's working. It's working. So we've upgraded to little pry bars. Careful. Careful, Captain. It's still a delicate piece of equipment. So I can see flywheel. That's good. We're off this dowel pin. Okay, calm down. You want to see if something's catching it too. You don't want to just pop it. So I don't believe we missed the bolt on that side, because I'm pretty sure it doesn't really move at all if we did. But she's coming slowly but surely. Alright, cool. It's out! Here we go. Sitting down there on the jack. So, I already actually took the pressure plate off the clutch. But yeah, it's definitely worn. Those are the wear rivets there, and it's flush. So we got her before she did too much damage, but we still got new flywheel, new clutch, and pressure plate. You can see a couple hot spots on here too. But yeah, that was a turd. I think the hardest part was getting it to separate. Once it separated, it wasn't too bad. Just make sure everything's out of the way. So the rest of it I'm going to be taking off. The flywheel, I actually have to go out and get a torque wrench. I don't have one here, so I need to run to the store, get a torque wrench. Just because when you put everything back in, jeez, let's turn this light off for you real quick. Hang on. There we go. We'll go get a torque wrench, get some red Loctite, and get started. Jeez, I'm dirty too. Because you want to make sure you torque everything down on this. Definitely the Loctite, just to make sure nothing comes loose. So we'll go grab a torque wrench, some Loctite, and make sure I get the pattern for tightening it down. Make sure I have everything like the way it's supposed to be. New gear oil, and then wrestle it back in. There you go. So next time you see me will be probably putting the flywheel on. We're gonna crack them loose. Now there's ways to wedge. You can wedge things in to crack those nuts loose because it will spin. We have a rattle gun, so that should be able to do the job. But if you don't, you can kind of wedge things down in on the teeth of the flywheel. Let's see if I can show you there. You can wedge things in on the teeth of the flywheel sometimes to prevent it from spinning while you crack everything loose. But your best bet is to get some type of impact gun, cordless, air powered. That'll just make it a lot easier for you. So, alright, we'll be back. Alright guys, so we got the pressure plate in, the flywheel, the throwout bearings in, everything's ready to go. I just need to get the transmission bolted up. But this has been a fun but tiring project. It's a lot of heavy lifting, slow steps. I don't really like to take my time and tighten down bolts to torque specs and all that, but it's something you have to do. So I got the old stuff laying here to kind of walk you through what you have to do. So we got the flywheel, and when you tighten down the bolts, you just start one in and you go across and you keep jumping across until you get them all in. Then you kind of snug them down just one at a time. Keep doing that cross bolt pattern. Once you get down to where everything's kind of snugged up, then you definitely want to make sure you have your torque wrench. And I torqued these down to about 53. I believe it's like 50 foot-pounds. So I did like a 53 foot-pounds on all of those. And I did use red Loctite. Once you got that, then you set your clutch in. It actually goes this way with the alignment tool, and then you set your pressure plate on. When you're doing the pressure plate, same thing, except it only torques to like 11 foot-pounds, so it's very minimal. So when you go to tighten those down, you want to use the torque wrench for the whole thing. So you don't want to just take a ratchet in there and snug them up, because 11 foot-pounds is very light. So that's what I did, is I just started all the bolts with by hand, and then I just used a torque wrench and took them all the way around. So with the pressure plate, you just want to use the torque wrench and tighten those all the way around. Same cross bolt pattern. The nice thing is with the pressure plate, there's these little holes here. They're guide pins or dowel rods, whatever you want to call them, dowel pins. And that helps kind of hold it. You still kind of, if you have two people, it's really nice. You can see where it kind of wore out, got hot in a lot of spots here. This whole job, I would recommend having two people. Just to one guy under the car handing you stuff. If you can do that, that's your best bet. Real quick, I can show you too what comes in the what all comes in this kit. Now you get the throwout bearing, the pressure plate, clutch disc itself. You also get a new flywheel. What did they call that? Drawing a blank. But the bearing that goes in the flywheel, I cannot think of what that's called right now. But I ordered a flywheel from Subaru, and they sent one. I ordered the bearing, and they actually put it in for me, so I didn't have to worry about swapping those out. The new one I bought came with it, so I have an extra one. Also came with 2 stickers. And it came with the license plate bracket, but it is, yeah, I'm not going to be using it. Let's put it that way. It says I heart Exedy, however you want to say it. It says their website up top. But that little heart symbol, nope, not making the car. I don't even know if these stickers will. They'll definitely, I'll get one on the toolbox. Maybe put one on the back window. We'll see. Pilot bearing. There it is. That's the pilot bearing. But yeah, it also comes with instructions and little, well, not really instructions, but tips and things to look out for when doing your clutch, diagnosing of the clutch, like I said earlier. So that's pretty nice to have, just because the people who make the clutch are kind of telling you what to watch out for, and it may not even be the clutch that's bad. Turns out mine is, so that made me happy, as far as I didn't waste my money. But yeah, there you go. I'll try to get another shot once we get everything back in, and like I said, I got some other parts to throw in too. Hopefully we get to that, but for now I'm just gonna go try to bolt this thing on and get back on the road. Okay, so we got everything in. Everything's bolted back. And looking pretty. We did have to wrestle, obviously. We had to wrestle it a little bit to get it in there. You know, getting the pitch right between matching what the engine's sitting at and the transmission's probably the most difficult part. But I just recommend moving slow. You know, move it one step at a time. Go around, look at it, make sure you know where you're at. If you have a couple guys, they can kind of monitor that for you. So me and Michael were, you know, moving it underneath. We'd come up, we'd look at it both sides, make sure it was clear, keep moving it until we got the angle just right, and then bang, she went on. We got it bolted together, and I missed one key component before we tested the pedal and the gears, make sure everything was linked back up. And that is this shift fork right here. Before you hook up the slave cylinder again, you need to push that back as far as you can with the transmission bolted up. So once the bell housing's bolted, before you remount the slave cylinder right here, you need to push back on your shift fork. What that does, I'll show you the old one, is that seats the throwout bearing. Let's clear off the spot on the bench. That's good enough. Let's grab that before I forget it's in there. Alright, so the throwout bearing is locked into the pressure plate. When you get it, it's not going to be. It's going to be a separate piece. And what happens is the shift fork, you put it in, put all this in the transmission, put the shift fork in it, and when you push that lever back, it forces this in, and it snaps. A little ring right here snaps in, so that actually locks it into the pressure plate. If you don't do that, you'll know right away the first time you hit your pedal, that clutch pedal will go to the floor and it won't pop back up. And the reason that is that pressure plate actually pushes it back. So you need to lock it in. When you push that fork back, it'll lock it into that ring will snap through. Once you lock that ring in, that's what actually pops it up. So the slave cylinder pushes it off the clutch because it's a pull style pressure plate. So it actually pulls and lifts that plate off, and then when you let off the clutch, it snaps back down. That's actually how that works. That threw me for a loop for a second just because I wasn't familiar with it, but I figured it out after a little bit of research, so it's all good. What we have to do now is obviously put back the drive shafts, the exhaust, and how I do the drive shaft is I'll slide the front end in. It's splined. You got to make sure that lines up. Once that's in, we'll mount the carrier bearing right in the center, and then go to the back. Now what I do is I have, let's say, I'll line it up, get the bolt I want to do, and have Michael pull the e-brake or I can go up and do it myself. Start the bolt, that will allow it not to turn. Tighten that up, take the e-brake off, rotate it again, and as you spin the wheel, it'll rotate that housing, which will then rotate this so you can get to those other bolts, because you can't get to all of them from one point. Then we'll put the half shafts back in, and then get it down on level ground. We'll put the gear oil in. It actually takes like 3.8 quarts, so I have to get another quart. We'll put the exhaust on, and then finally finish up with the intercooler. I'm actually going to do the intercooler last. That is our new STI intercooler, by the way. I got a video coming on that, how we painted it. So that should be out by the time you see this. We're also, while we're here, we're going to do a quick swap on this. We're also going to make a video on that as well. I don't know if we're doing that today or not. Probably going to be doing that. So this will be coming off here in a minute. And then the fuel injectors, which are actually kind of hard to see, but they're back in there somewhere. So we're going to be doing those as well, and I got all that. Just give you a little sneak peek here. So injectors are in there. There they are. 4 new ones. They're actually remanufactured, to be honest. And then our new DF39 STI turbo. Thanks to Mike over at Alpha Motorworks. Can't show you the price on there. Not allowed. Alpha Motorworks. Mike hooked me up with a good deal. So definitely a good guy there if you're in the Belden, Northeast Ohio area, or even if you're not. Mike's a good guy to look up. Does a lot of work himself. He's, from what I understand, used to tune cars and do all that, build them, all that cool stuff. So yeah, there we go. That's the clutch install. I'm sorry if the quality's bad, camera works bad. It is a big job, like I said before, and it is a difficult one to film and make sure you're doing everything right. So I do apologize for that. In the future, if I have to do it again, we'll definitely record a little bit more, because we'll have an understanding of it. Speak of the devil, Michael's here. He's going to give me a help putting everything back in. So we're going to do that and then make these other videos on our other pieces parts. But Michael just got there. So he's going to give me a hand buttoning it back up, and then we'll start on the other stuff. So just remember, like, comment. If you have questions, ask them down below.